Welcome back, Inebri-ites. Today we are joined by Robin Merle, who's got a new book out on October 28th. That's the right date, right?
That's right. Hmm.
A Dangerous Friendship. But we were just talking about your, I don't know if it was a previous book, I should say, because I'm not sure, but Involuntary Exit and kind of how
Hmm.
Inebri-art got not started, but established as my full time job as I got laid off from my quote unquote real job. Um, and I was just saying how I think it's gonna be like one of the best thing that's ever happened to me looking back. And
Hmm.
it's kind of that always unexpected change in life that you just never know where good's gonna come from.
Yeah, that's right. And I actually wrote it before COVID hit, and before it was published, COVID hit. And so, we were dealing with the usual toxic situations where people are have to exit involuntarily, and then there was just massive unemployment.
Yeah.
And I write about the fact I think it was Weight Watchers that fired hundreds of people online after muting them. They called them to the computer. They muted them and said, "I'm sorry, this is your last day." And people are,
Wow.
yeah. So that's when it sort of became clear that this is an event that can be traumatizing for people. But as you said, it turns out after you get through the grieving and after you get through realizing what happened to you and take it away from it wasn't me, this is, these were the circumstances that made this occur. You realize it's a really great opportunity to sit back, to reflect, to reframe, reset, and to do some of the things that maybe you might have been doing in the margin. Like you, Andy, you might have been doing something like this in the margin while you had your other job, taking hours away from your real passion. And people really do discover their passion. And I also coach people now, which I never wanted to do. Don't call me a coach. I don't want to do that. But people reached out to me, and what's that has given me is perspective. So where are they now? Like you, they're
Hmm.
happier. They're grateful this happened. They got into a new way of life that really suits who they are and what they value.
It's funny because we were Inebri-art did exist prior to COVID,
Hmm.
and we were just kind of like setting it up as an official business. And I look back and it's very funny because late January, me and my business partner sat down and talked about like what the transition was going to look like to full time
Uh-huh.
Inebri-art because I'm like, we're getting quote unquote so busy now that I look back at it, I'm like, that was ridiculous. But like which one was going to quit their day job first, like what was the best
Mm.
strategy. And then 6 weeks later, I was laid off. And that day
Mm.
I got laid off, I don't think I realized how mad I was at the time, but
Oh yeah.
so that was 5 years ago. So I was 45. But since I was 16, I'd never not had a job,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I mean, I would talk to people 5 years from when they were laid off and they were still
Yeah.
really angry. And some of it depends on how it happens, if it's humane or not. But most people, when you think about it, most people don't know how to fire people.
Yeah. And it was such I don't think beyond that day, I don't ever think I took it personally just because it was such a weird
Good.
time. Because initially
Yeah.
we were furloughed and they're like, we'll see you back in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks became 4 weeks. And then 4 weeks became
Uh,
6 weeks. And so everyone was just in such a loss of knowing what was
yeah.
happening. And so, you know, I I generally don't look back at like, oh,
Good.
what could have, should have, would have, but this I'm too busy. There's too much going on forward to kind of. Even then, there wasn't much going on, but still, yeah. But did you write this new book, A Dangerous Friendship, during COVID? Is that
No,
no?
I actually wrote, quote, the new book, air quote, the new book 30 years ago.
Oh, that's funny. I just
Yeah.
interviewed an author. Like my last interview was someone who started writing a book when they were 18, and he was older than me, and he said it's only been out for like a year or so.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
something. Well, no, I started and finished it about 30 years ago. And it made the rounds and it got a lot of interest. And I had a couple of agents and they did an auction. And I'm saying this for anybody who thinks that, things cannot be revived. They can. They
Yeah.
can. So don't give up your dreams and your hopes. And the auction was too early, and I said, you know what? I've got to start earning a living because I support my family.
Sorry, what do you mean by auction? Like they put
Oh,
your
well,
book up
they
for
an
like on?
agent no, an agent will take a book and they'll put it out there and auction it with publishers and sort of who has the highest bid
Oh,
to take this book and publish it. At least that was my understanding.
yeah, yeah.
So, but you really want to do that when you have a lot of interest and a lot of competing interests. And I guess that it was ill-timed. I really don't know. The
Yeah.
publishing industry is an entirely different species
Hmm.
from the writing industry. You know
Sure.
this. You know
Oh
that
yeah.
you do your creative work and then you have to go into the other realm. So anyway, so I wrote it a while ago. Then my life happened, and I put it on a shelf, and I've written my whole life. I've written through my jobs. I've gotten jobs from my writing. I've always been writing something, short
Hmm.
stories, something. I've been a ghostwriter, speeches, jokes, script. It's like I like to do it. So then my full-time work became less full-time, and my husband said to me, you really got to get that off the shelf. I'm like, no, 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 I'm not gonna, no, 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 no. Anyway, so I finally took it down, and I had She Writes Press had published Involuntary Exit, and I said, okay, let me see if they'll take it. And they took it right away. And I was like, great. And now it's published. Now it's in print. And yes, I had gone back and I did, revisions.
Hmm.
And I think some of the real benefits of if you've written a book a long time ago and you go back to it now, in the intervals, I'm a big reviser, so I did do
Sure.
that. But the distance you get from the first creation of the product is really important, you know? And then reading it and laughing out loud and loving it when I read it again was really important.
Yeah.
And figuring out how do I really want this to end. That was fun too. So it became something that was in that area of uncertainty and I don't know and so I let it sit and I let it rise like a cake, and then when I took it out, I think it was the right time. It
Yeah.
was the right time for it
Yeah.
and for
And
me.
there's been numerous times where I've gone back through old sketchbooks
There you
and
go.
looking at some stuff, and there's stuff that I hated that I'm like, oh, this wasn't so bad. And then other stuff that I remember loving, and you're like, ugh, what was I thinking? So yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
it's like looking at it with fresh eyes.
Yeah, fresh eyes, fresh ears. A lot of life happens over 3 decades, and seeing if it still resonates, if
Hmm.
it still plays, and it does. It does. I'm excited because I'm posting about it on Instagram, and I'm looking at the demographics,
Yeah.
and it's across the spectrum.
Oh, really? That's
It's
interesting.
Yeah, it
You don't
is
get a lot of
interesting.
stuff
I
that's like
think
that.
I know, and I think it's because there's a renewed interest in the 1980s, which
Yeah.
is when the book takes place. I think it's because the two characters are just so engaging and they're really funny. They're
Yeah. Yeah.
really funny. The dialogue is really funny, and because it has to do with friendship. And I just know, people redefine friendship plays different roles in people's lives all the time. And for different generations, it it can become as important as your family, your friends.
Oh, for
And
sure.
right? And who you spend time with.
Hmm.
And this is a story about two women. One is magnetic and sort of a little bit older and knows all the ways of New York, the men, the wealth, the all the social uh, social schemes of the city, and the other one has just is at a loss, just lost her husband, and is looking for somebody to help change her life for her. So she follows her through this maze of adventures and stories and throughout the book you really don't know which of the stories being told are true and which are not.
Oh, interesting.
And
Yeah.
that plays a role in the way the bigger story evolves and finally ends. You never know what's true. It's all
Yeah.
fantastic.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I kind of, I mean, it makes me think of a lot of different types of media that has that kind of, it's fanciful, but then like, oh, wait, some of that, or wait, what blurred the line and like what was really
Yeah.
happening. And yeah, that's such a cool vibe. It's so funny that you said that the 80s are kind of like in vogue now. I was hanging out with my youngest the other day, just turned 21. And like
Uh-huh.
mid conversation, I stopped him like, "Are you wearing leg warmers?"
That's right.
And they're like, "Yeah." Like I was the weird one.
That's really funny
Yeah,
because at my launches, I'm like, okay, we're gonna do an 80s vibe. So if you have your leg warmers, bring them. I
yeah,
don't have any, but yeah, that's really funny.
yeah. We see a lot of like restaurants and breweries doing like 80s parties and 80s trivia and
Uh-huh.
that stuff. So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's cool in some ways, but in other ways, I'm like, I just feel like it just left. Like, why? Makes me feel old that it's like back, quote unquote.
Yeah, it's too recent to come back, but part of the other aspect of the book is the music. I
Yeah.
really love music. I have a playlist for it. The playlist is all over the map because it relates to different events in the story. But then I kind of what I'm posting is a lot of 80s music that
Yeah.
I come back to. And there are just decades that to me are defined by music. And
Oh,
so it's real,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? So it's really, really important to me
Yeah.
that it goes throughout the book and it's part of the ambience of the book.
Yeah. I'm a huge music lover. It's always been part of my life.
That's
Did
what I
you did
thought. Yeah.
the playlist was the playlist like songs you were listening to as you were writing, or did you write it and go, oh, this song in particular would go good with this scene? Like which like is it a chicken or the egg kind of thing? Like which one came
Yeah,
first?
that's a good question. Um, Some of it, I think it was both. Some of it were tracks I thought of when I was writing it,
Yeah.
and then there were tracks that I found after I wrote it that I thought were really appropriate.
Yeah.
Like there's one that I went back and I found. You know that oh she's sweet but a psycho. Oh she's sweet but a psycho, a
No, I
little
don't
bit
think I know that one.
psycho. Yeah, and I listened to that and I said, oh. That works. It wasn't in the book, but that works.
Yeah. I should look up that song because I think I know several of them.
Yeah.
That's funny. Um,
Mhm.
when you took it back off the shelf and you were like making some revisions, was there any like major change that you had to make that you're like, this doesn't mean the same? Like, or was it just all smaller stuff?
Uh, you know, I think it was medium stuff.
Okay.
So I think now we don't like to be slowed down when we read, right? It's faster.
Yeah. Pretty much
People like
every media is like that. Like,
is faster.
yeah. Yeah.
And so I would chunk out pieces that made it, in my mind, too slow. And I'm the same way. I'm a fast reader, and I go zoom zoom zoom. It's like, well, what is this in here for? It's
Yeah.
lovely. I must have had fun writing this
Yeah.
description, but I need to move on
Hmm.
from here. So I think those were medium changes. I also I don't remember where in the process it happened, but before I finally committed to getting it published, I had gone back to it and I made a major change around the ending.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love the last line of this book. I would never change the last paragraph in the last line, but there was something that came before it that I thought, okay, this is what I want to say here about
Yeah.
that. Of course, I can't have a spoiler, but and what's interesting is the reviews they called an explosive ending.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a great
which is
review.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, which is nice, right? And first I thought, well, it must be that part that I love, and then it, I'm not really sure which part they get jolted by, but I would say that the very last line is it's just like boom. I
Did
love that.
did you have that line in mind? Like I it made me think, I don't know why my brain works the way it does, but of Gary Marshall, the
Yeah,
TV writer.
yeah.
Like he said he used to write um for Dick Van Dyke, where he'd be like, the start off is this, and then he would see where it went. But when he wrote for I Love Lucy, he'd be like, I want her to end up in this situation and start then at the beginning to get to the end situation. So did you have like that last line? Be like, all right, how do I get to that last line? Or did that kind of develop from where you started?
It developed from where I started. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. I could not have had that last line and written backward. I couldn't have. Everything had to take place and everything had to develop, and then it all came together. And I know, everybody writes differently, everybody creates
Hmm.
differently. And, some people love to know where they're going and where they need to get to. And for me, that takes the joy out of the writing because I love to see where everybody's going while I'm helping them get there.
Yeah.
So it's always, okay, how is this evolving? Okay, what's occurring to me here? Okay, what's going to happen next? So I don't make outlines, for example. Some people make outlines of their
Hmm.
books.
Yeah.
I make them when people request them based on what I've already written.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, so you kind of
right?
like retroactively write it. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do, because I just think that there's um and I really have to think about it, Andy, what my guardrails are, because I must have guardrails, right, as I'm going along, so I don't go off in 15 different directions
Yeah.
that distract from what the real story is. Um, but I'm also, and I say that knowing I'm not really good at deconstructing how I work. Are you?
Um, sort of. I've been
Mm-hmm.
so this past year I turned 50 in January, and I've been kind of
Hmm.
spending the last year kind of being like, how the hell did I end up here? Like how did
Yeah.
it go from this baby is named Andy or Andrew to like where I am now? And so I've been really kind of like going back and like looking at things that were really important as a kid, and
Oh,
shows that
interesting.
I loved and watched, and music that
Uh-huh.
I loved to listen to, and kind of been like, oh, I can see kind of like a through line to like where I got to, and like where I at currently with my artwork is I don't do as much as I should, but is very much like I can track how I got here, and a lot of it is to like I'm a bit of a control freak.
Okay.
And so I've spent the last like 10 years or so trying to not be so precious and cut out control. And
Trying to control your controlling tendency.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Why'd you put it like that, man? That sounds awful.
Sorry.
No, but kind of like, because the artwork that I really like is tends to be very
Mhm.
like loose and street art, and
Right,
but
right.
like I was always so like bound up and constrained, and like so like the first step was like I threw away my eraser and then I stopped drawing in pencil.
Oh,
So like once that mark is made, well,
very
it's
nice. Yeah,
just
that's great.
there. Like you
Mhm.
can't do anything about it. And
That's really great.
yeah, so then it's just kind of like now like stuff I'm working on is like a lot of splattery paint and inks.
Uh-huh.
So like the process is there, but like I really don't have control over how it's going to come. And then I have to kind of like, you know, the same way you would edit your story is like I have to go back and
Yeah.
kind of like, well, I don't like that blob here, so I how can I change it and fix it? And so it's I think my favorite thing is like the process of creating. Like,
Right,
you know,
right,
it doesn't have
right.
to end up being a completed thing. I just want to,
I agree with
yeah,
that.
get my hands dirty and make a mess.
Yeah.
And so that's,
So it's like if something is bothering me and or I feel irritated or anything like that, I feel like, well, I haven't written anything for a while. And for you, it must be, well, I haven't gotten in my art for a while. And as soon as you get into that, you get to do it.
yeah,
It's just it's your better place to be.
I had it.
It's
So it was very scheduled.
oh,
Because we
okay.
we are so busy that I don't, and that's why I don't do it as much as
Yeah,
I should, because I'm so busy like creating these events and promoting them and doing podcasts
sure.
and all that stuff. Which in as I've gotten older, I'm also like, oh, that is part of my creative process and artwork, and like,
Right.
but we have our longest running event is we have a figure drawing group where a bunch of
Hmm,
artists meet at a bar and we bring in a model. So I literally had time like the first Tuesday of every month I'm drawing, like period,
that's
end of
great.
story. So it's
That's
nice to kind of
great.
have it built in, but sometimes it was once a month that I was getting to draw, which kind of
Yeah.
sucks. So
Yeah. Yeah. You want to do
yeah,
more? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So, kind of what I do, and it's a little related to music, is if I don't have a whole chunk of time,
yeah,
um, I write. My son produces music. I write stems, fiction stems. Well, a
like
stem is
little,
like a piece of something. In music,
yeah,
you write, you take an electronic. He writes electronic music. You take a sound, right?
yeah,
Is a stem that you're going to add on to other things and build and build and build from that. So I just put things out there, splatter, right? To
yeah,
use your word, right? I splatter things out there, usually early in the morning before I have to get into a other routine. And then I just keep going back and building and building and building. And it's kind of always been like that. I mean, I know some people are more structured in that, well, I sit down at this time and I write for this amount of time.
yeah,
And I've done that, I guess, but it's much more enjoyable to write in in different, I guess, spurts when I can find it on anything. I dictate. I can't read my handwriting anymore, but so I prefer to type something out. All of that. And I went to a writers festival the other day, and I was really happy to hear somebody stand up and say, "Yeah, I wrote the book. I had 20 minutes on the subway, and that's where I wrote it between, one stop and the next." Like, yeah, I understand that.
yeah, yeah. And I remember, God, now I'm not going to be able to pull it out of my brain, but there was someone posted something and it was like one sentence stories.
Oh,
And, but
how
they
fascinating.
were meant to
Yeah.
be scary specifically. And there was one that it said something, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember, but something about waking up to look at your phone and seeing a photo of yourself sleeping, but you live alone,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, that's such a cool,
Oh,
like, like
that's scary.
you've boiled that down.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, and like so there's so many people that have helped over the years kind of get their podcast started, and I always say, if you can't boil your show down into a clear, concise elevator pitch, you're not gonna ever be able to do it. Like you need to have a very specific, I talk to creative people about what they do. Boom, done. Like,
Right.
and it's
Right.
something about limiting yourself, I think can make really creative, cool ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you so you said you think you have guardrails, but I mean, do you set them up like, because I mean, where is the limitation in when you're writing? Like,
So, I think what I'm always keeping in mind, the big guardrail is imagining someone reading it,
yeah,
not just writing for what I think is good or what I think is interesting, but how is this going to land with
yep,
somebody who's reading it, right?
especially if it's
So,
funny, because that's way harder.
especially if it's
Yeah.
funny, that's right. But one of the other things, and a lot of us do this, is I could write a gorgeous paragraph, gorgeous writing, gorgeous stuff, but it doesn't move the story along.
Hmm.
So that's a guardrail. We'll have to say, okay, well, let's see, can I save some of this? Can I save most of it? Can I use it somewhere else? Or do I just need to take it out, put it somewhere, maybe use it later, use it for inspiration? So I'm just always thinking of people following a story. And I think about how I read and what bothers me in
Yeah.
books and what excites me in books. And even though, we said before that speed is involved, you want people to keep going. You don't want anything that you've written to make somebody stop and say, "Is that spelled right? Is that the wrong word? What are they talking about?
that's
Which
why
character is that?"
that's
You
why I don't
know?
write too much.
Right. But it's like that,
Yeah.
what do they mean? You don't want anybody to do that. You really want to get them into the whole picture of the
Hmm.
story. So so those are some of my basic guardrails. I would also say that for whatever reason, don't know why, I haven't done the retrospective like you have, to find the thread as to
Yeah.
why certain things appeal to me and certain things didn't. But having an ear for dialogue, my friends would laugh at me. We'd go out to dinner and they'd say something, and I was like, "Wait a minute, I got to write that down." Because it was just so funny, or it was
Yeah.
just perfect, or it was just such a great observation. And I used to one holiday, a friend gave me as a gift all these envelopes from nonprofits asking for money that that he just was going to throw away. But he's like, "Here, write to your heart's content." Now I just dictate really on my phone,
Yeah.
but having that ear and really having it relate back to the character, so that it's in the character's voice and people can hear that, is really important to me. I mean, I did my thesis when I was an English major person on theater of the absurd.
Hmm.
I thought that was hilarious. Edward, hilarious stuff, you know? And not everybody thinks that,
Yeah.
right? It's dry humor. You've got to, it's different. But I can't tell you how many times in real life where half of those plays and the dialogue's like, "Oh yeah, this is it again."
But
This is
it's
just
a reason why
absurd.
it's funny is it's, because
Right,
like we can relate to
right,
it. And
right.
I was listening to a podcast that was talking about a sci-fi movie that was like direct release to DVD, and they're like, if the stuff in this movie wasn't coming true today, I'd think it was absurd. They're like, but
Yeah.
now it's more predictive, and I don't like that. But it's like, no matter how much time has changed, it's like we're all like experiencing the same thing essentially. It's just different technology around us, but we still have the same problems and emotions. And so I think that's why, like, when you kind of look back at, you know, Shakespeare's funny and Monty Python's funny, and not
Right.
not
Yeah.
all of it carries through, but there's some of it that's just, you're like, yeah, that will always be funny. You know.
Right, right. And to go to your point about we're all experiencing the same things, there's in the beginning of the book, um, she's going on these sort of mini adventures out of her usual, the one who had just suffered a loss after a divorce, out of her usual routine.
Hmm.
And as you can imagine, there are scammers and all sorts of people that take advantage of people when they're vulnerable. And she just wonders, are there people wandering around searching all day long, searching for it, and we don't even know what it is, but we're just searching for this thing that's going to make us understand our world and where we are in it and what we want, and it's just so ephemeral. It's like, boom, where do
Yeah.
you find it?
Yeah. And I mean, so many people, whatever it is, they want it, but they really don't know what it is.
Exactly. They
Like,
don't know.
yeah.
Right. So that's how, she ends up following someone who she thinks does know what it is. And clearly, but that person doesn't have a clue either. She just has a good performance.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So she's believable, except when the stories get very far-fetched. And then it's like, well, yeah, that could have happened. And you keep trotting along, like, okay, okay. Because, you know, because she wants to believe that that person knows what it is and where to find it and how it's going to redefine everything that she's missing and wants.
So you wrote did you say 30 years ago? Am I remember that?
About, yeah,
Okay.
about
So in
something
that
like that.
time, have you found it?
Well,
I
I,
I don't know if I
I,
have.
yeah,
I'm
you
still
don't know if you
looking.
have.
Yeah.
I think what I've discovered is that there's no one miracle elixir it.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to make a person feel whole when they feel fragmented. That it's, yeah, I hate to sound this way, but that it's all a process. It's all experiences, all adding up together, where finally you realize that you don't have to search through somebody else's eyes. You can search through your own and figure out, okay, this is meaningful to me. This is something I value. This is not meaningful to me. This is how I want to live. And this is, who I'm choosing to be at this time. So it's a lot more
Yeah.
fluid than one it moment, though we all relish that aha moment, right?
Yeah. And
We
it's
all want to
funny.
believe in that.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think, like, our species is our storytellers, from day one.
Yeah.
Um, and in some ways it does us a disservice, because in the story there's, like, that moment where the story is complete, whether it's a happy ending or a sad ending, and but real life isn't like that. Like, I can't remember who said this. I heard it on a podcast, and he's like, "You never get to spike the football in life.
Hmm.
Score the touchdown, and, like, because it
Hmm.
even once if you're working towards a goal and you achieve that goal, if it's an Academy Award, you win the Academy Award. Well, you just, like, the movie doesn't end; you keep going.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right, right. There's a
so
little bit of letdown, like Peggy Lee. I don't know if you know her song is That All There Is. You got to
yeah,
the top of the mountain, you got to the summit, like okay, and there's empty oxygen tanks here, and there's a lot of trash all over
yeah.
here, and somebody there's a tattered flag, and
And
is
now
that
I got to
it?
climb down.
And now I got to go again.
Yeah,
Um, but I like your question. I really like your question, and it makes me think of this image that I did keep from the book where I talk about the narrator talks about life in the shape of an egg, where
Yeah.
you start sort of on one side of the egg and you slide down and and as you go, you pick up all of these experiences and all these people of places, and then you get to the bottom of the egg and you look up and you say, wow, I came a long way. And then you start trying to get back to where you started and you shed the people and the places and all the things that you sort of made you different than who you were when you started at the beginning. You get back to the top.
Yeah.
I think I
That's
said it better in the book, but it was just that image. And I
yeah.
just, think about that when in the search for the ultimate
Yeah. I
knowledge
think
kind of
it's
thing.
always important to remember like you don't know when your ride's going to be over. You know,
Yeah,
it could happen
yeah,
any second.
yeah,
And to make sure that you are enjoying the moment you're in. And
yeah.
it's always, whenever I have friends who are getting married, I always like pull them aside. And I usually preface it with this: I'm divorced, so take this with a grain of salt. But get away. Like, this day is supposed to be about the two of you. Get rid
Right.
of the photographer, get rid of the parents and the wedding party, and take a moment, 5 minutes, just for you two. That's not recorded, that doesn't have anything else other than just you two, and just be like, this is our day, and make that memory, because that goes by so fast. And then you're just like, wow, we spent 10 grand on something that we have a bunch of photos of, but I
Yeah,
barely remember because it flew by. So
yeah.
it's
No,
kind of,
that's
yeah.
true. That's true. So you encourage them to take the journey. Take
Yeah,
a
just
journey.
take a
Hmm.
take a second, take a breather, take a pause. And really, it's, I mean, me and my business partner do it all the time. Like, anytime we're doing an event, we kind of like nudge each other and be like, this is our job. And like, just that moment of like, we're having so much fun doing something, but like, oh yeah, like, you kind of look around and you take it in. And I just don't think there's like enough of that where like you stop
No,
and
it's
just
true.
kind of see where on the egg you are.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
it. That's exactly right. And when, in the case of these characters, they start in the city and they want to do exactly what you said. They want to get away.
Yeah.
So they rent a cabin in the mountains in an entirely different kind of culture that they're used to, right? Where at that time a Genesee beer was like 35 cents.
Okay.
Right? You go to a bar and you get a
Yeah.
Jenny for 35 cents. And and people are just there's a lot of dancing in the book at this club, and
Yeah.
people just get away, and there are scenes where you know the locals, oh, I'm what you girls call a local, right?
Yeah.
Where those guys are just, they just go crazy, they're just dancing and jumping up and down, having the time of your life, and it's so freeing to be that way, to be outside of expectations, traditions, rituals like the one you were explaining,
Hmm.
and to go into another world where none of that, you're not known, none of that applies. So you get to be and to take in everything you want to take in. It's a great journey.
Yeah. Awesome. And that is A Dangerous Friendship, out October 28th. Where can
Right.
people find that?
They can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop. Yeah, they can pre-order it now on Amazon.
Nice.
A Dangerous
Uh,
Friendship by Robin Merle.
do
Hmm.
you have a website, or are you going to be doing any like book signings that people
Oh
can?
yeah, yeah. My site is theprofessionalguide.com,
Okay.
right? Because it started with Involuntary Exit, where I
Oh,
was
right.
guiding people, and now I
Okay.
got my other book up there.
Yeah.
So theprofessionalguide.com. And I'm going to be at a couple private events in New York, and then I would have to, and then I'm going to in DC, and some of these are invitation only events, but people should, if you look at my Instagram, which is Robin Merle TPG, the professional guy.
Okay.
You can get some information there as well.
Outstanding. Well, I wish you the best of luck, and I encourage our readers
Thank
to
you,
check this
Andy.
book out. It sounds like a lot of fun. And thanks for taking the time
It
to talk
is.
to us.
Thanks, Andy. This was a pleasure. You make it very easy
I
and
try.
enjoyable.
I try.
You
Um,
succeed.
awesome. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. And so, listeners, we will catch you back here next Monday, and we'll see you then. And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also, don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.